Man, oh man, oh man. It has been a long time since I've talked about Attack on Titan. And holy shit. Where do I start? Where do I start? I guess the simplest way is to briefly just say that the last chapter I read was 123, which was when Eren said that he was going to eradicate everyone in the world except for Paradise Island because that's where all his friends came from, his friends and family. And I remember reading that chapter and I was like, oh, shit, well, like, where do we go from here? And there is a lot. Long story short, there is a lot of stuff that has happened within these last 6 chapters of Attack on Titan. And I want to say this right now, I'm not going to be able to do my thoughts justice. Let me just say that right now. Because there is so much content within each of the chapters that I know I'm going to skip over something. But I figured I found a way to be able to talk about the important bits that happened in the chapters themselves, rather than just kind of like, going all over the place. So, the first thing that actually came to my attention a lot within the 6 chapters was Gabby. Because if you've noticed, at least for me, I thought Gabby was an interesting character when she first showed up, and I know there was a lot of backlash to her character. I think there still is when it came to her taking out Sasha, and since then it's kind of just been like, okay, Gabby, what are you gonna do? That's kind of been what people's thoughts have been. I really like where Isayama's taking Gabby because, at first, she still kind of continues off from where it has been with her, where she's like, oh yeah, let's kill all the devils, but after spending time with, with the characters from Paradise Island, with the Blouse family, you see that, there's like little inklings of change in her, even though she's still kind of stuck to her core of, no, we have to eliminate. Until Reiner finally sits down with her and says, no, there's nothing we can do. There is absolutely nothing we can do now that Eren has a founding Titan. Because, he's controlling every walled Titan in existence. Anyone that stops him is pretty much like a pebble size in that respect. So it's like, well, shit, so it's finally hitting her. And because Reiner's so worn out from the rumbling itself with the walls collapsing, Gabby has to take a stance. And I love what Isayama did with her because one of the first things she does is she saves Kaya, who gets a spitting image of Sasha from Gabby. It kind of has that, like, ironic touch to it, but it's also kind of symbolic in a way, too. It's like, remember, Sasha saved her the first time. And then this time, it's almost kind of mirroring that same thing. And what I also really liked about this from Gabby was that, like, she finally has taken everything into account. She's like, I was wrong. I thought you guys were the devil, but it's really just been me. Ultimately, kind of like making that stance of, like, I thought we were taught one certain way, and now I've realized that we were wrong. We were wrong this entire time. I like that Nicholas is the one that kind of comes in and says, no, you're not wrong. There's a demon inside all of us. And it kind of helps showcase that there's always a perspective. One side always views that they're right, and the other side does the same thing. It's a clash of ideology. And that's what I really love about Attack on Titan, because, like, up until this point, it was like, yeah, Paradise Island. And then we got the Marley arc, and the Marley arc is kind of showcased that there's, like, 2 separate sides of the story. And I love that about this. I love that it's like, no, you're not the one who's wrong, and we're not the one who's wrong either. There's, it's perspective. I love how this also comes into account with Armin and Mikasa, where, Sasha's father brings him down to where Gabby is, and Gabby's like, I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to fight. I just want to get Falco. I want to get out of here. And Reiner, he is hurt right now. He is resting because of everything that's happened with the rumbling. And, like, she is begging. Like, she is like, can we just stop? Can we just stop the fighting? Please? Because, I've got people I care about too. And Reiner is seriously hurt. And immediately when Armin hears that, he's like, wait a second. When did the armor pierce off for Reiner? He said, around the same time as the rumbling. And Armin's like, wait a second. Eren said that everything would come undone with the rumbling. And that's where we go back to where they kept Annie, and the crystal is shattered. And I remember I read that chapter, and I was like, oh shit, she's awake! She's finally awake after I want to say 4 arcs. Clash of the Titans arc, Uprising arc, Return to Shingansha. Yeah, 4 arcs. And so after nearly 4 arcs, Annie's back in the picture. And I love how she kind of takes that stealthical approach where, Hitch is checking to see what's going on because she sees like drippings and whatnot. She tries to get the best of Hitch. Ultimately, you could tell Annie's still a little weak. But then Annie says, nah, 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 nah. See these markings right here? The blood? I could turn into a Titan anytime I wanted to. So, you better help me out. And that's kind of where we find out that from Annie that she's been onto everything that's been going on in the last 4 years. And that comes as a surprise to Hitch. And Annie explains that, look, yeah, I could hear yours and Armin's voice throughout the years. So I know what the hell's going on here. And I think that's really, really cool. What's really funny after this point is that, like, Annie bumps into Armin and Connie. But the thing is, it's not in the way you think. Basically after Armin convinces Connie to not let him eat his mom, and instead use himself as a sacrifice, but Connie ultimately says, well, what's the point then? She'd be much more of a burden. And Connie kind of gets that realization that, like, well, maybe you're right about this, Armin. Maybe you are. So then after that's settled, try to replenish their energy, and they just see Annie while she's eating pie. And I remember I was like, that's funny. Like, it was so chill, like, they just bump into each other like, yo, Annie, where'd you come from? And she leaves a note for Hitch, who's like, oh, man, how am I gonna eat this cake by myself now? Thus, we get to where Reiner's at, and off the gate, the first time she's there, she's like, hey, lazy ass, wake up. And she's like, wait, what's going on? Because he sees Connie there too with everyone else from the Paradise cast, and he's like, oh, wait, what? And Gabby and Falco say, wait, it's okay. It's okay. They're on our side. And Connie's the one who says, yeah, we're here to save the world. Which I should also know that someone was also watching over them as they were, like, escaping. Which we kind of figure out who that is in 129. Hanji, after talking with Pikes and Magath, they're like, hey, wait, hold on. Let's stop. Let's stop for just a minute. Try to cooperate with one another. Just to, like, assemble. And that's where we cut to here with 127, where everyone's gathered together now. At first, it's kind of like pointing fingers at one another. Oh, it's because of you. No, it's because of you. Like, and the best example I can give out here is with Jean and Magath, because Magath's like, oh yeah, it's because of you devils. You're the reasons why. And Jean straight up brings up a good point. He says, excuse fucking me, but if y'all didn't send the Colossal Titan, if y'all didn't send the Armored Titan, Eren's mother would still be alive, and he would not be on the path that he is right now. You guys are ultimately the cause behind it. And I love how that also comes into perspective for Reiner, too, because he finally talks about what happened to Marco, and reveals that, he was the one that led Marco to his death by forcing Annie to tell him to remove his 3D maneuver gear, and, leaving him for dead, but then also having him question why that was the case. And then Jean asks, did he have any last words? And Reiner says, yeah, his last words were, we still haven't talked yet. And as soon as Jean heard that, decks out Reiner, right in front of everyone, Gabby steps in and says, hey, I know at first we wanted to eradicate. That was what we wanted to do. But we need your help. We need your help in doing what we need to do. But I also like that Annie also has a chance to talk about this too, where she asks Mikasa, like, hey, so what are we planning to do once we find Eren? Like, talking and all is fine, but I'm just saying hypothetically, let's just say the conversation thing doesn't work out. What happens then? Are you willing to kill Eren? And that kind of puts into perspective for Mikasa too, because up until this point, like, we all know how protective Mikasa is over Eren. Annie leaves that realization for her where she's like, I'm just saying, like, what if it doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to turn out? And I think that's really, really cool. Which leads us to the assault on the harbor, and holy shit. So, the assault on the harbor is actually really, really interesting, because at first, Armin's whole plan is, let's try to negotiate with the Yeagarists. Let's try to make it seem like that the Armored Titan and the Female Titan are off somewhere. They've killed Jean and Onio Ponko. Let's try to get Osmobito. Let's get the ship, and let's get out of here. No conflict whatsoever. That's what the initial plan was. But of course, Flock, being the dickweed that he is, tries to shoot someone. Automobile stops it, which leads to the plan failing. And that triggers everything for their mission. The Jaegerists are on the defensive. Annie and Reiner, off the gate coming in, says, "Oh, we ain't having the shit." So they're stepping up their game. They're pulling all the assault. And at the same time, while that's going on, Hanji and Magath find out the ship will take some time before it takes off. Maybe like a estimate of like a day or so. And to which that's like, well, if it takes that long, who knows how far Eren and the Wall Titans will be before they reach Marley. So then they immediately change course to going towards the ship at the ocean, by taking the cruise. Mikasa relayed that plan to Annie, and they're like, all right, so they're still on the defensive, but they're taking massive damage. Annie and Reiner are. And Falco steps up too. Falco says, nah, I can see what's going on with them. They need my help. And that's when we see Falco transforming into the Jaw Titan, going all ham against the Jaeger. But it doesn't work out exactly as well as you think it does too, because Falco loses control. He then starts attacking the other members, like Pikeys, and Magath is there to ultimately prevent him from doing any more damage. And as everyone is heading towards the ship, Magath says, I need to stay here and give you guys some time to get away. And while he's taking on the other Jaegerists, that's where Keith Shada shows up, the bystander himself, which that's one point I haven't really talked about yet from the other chapters, is that, we've seen Keith Shada show up here and there throughout these 6 chapters, and I think it's really cool too because we find out that he's the one that watched Annie. Because when we saw that one figure look out through the window, and Annie noticed, she was like, who was that? Who was the person that saw that? And we find out it's him. Shada says, I'll help you out. And when Magath asks why he did it, Shada says that he was motivated by his students. And Magath says that, it was the same thing, and he kind of wished that, maybe there could have been, a brighter future for his kids as well. That's when you finally have the introduction with Keith revealing who he is, Magath revealing who he is, and the last shot of this chapter for 129. Oh my god. I was like, damn. I mean, Magath we've only known since the Marley arc, but it's still, wow, that impact that he left. Because you're like, well, shit. And then you got Keith Shada's too. His backstory, everything regarding that character, what he did for Eren, what he did for his students, seeing the impact that they left, it was like, damn, yo, you could see the reaction on Gabby's face. You could see the reaction on Pikey's face. Everyone that was on that boat, they saw that explosion and they knew, shit, they're gone. Well, at least Magath, they didn't know about Keith, but I'm sure they're going to find out about that whenever they get back. But yeah, I remember I sat there and I was just like, what a way to go out. Isayama did such an incredible job giving Magath and Keith the send-off that they deserved. It really, really leaves me curious as to where we're going to go with 130 and the stuff that's going to be happening there. If I have to take a guess, let me just make one little prediction about this right now. I think we might see Eren again. I think we have to. Because given how much time has passed, and given that 130 is the last chapter for volume, I want to say, 32, right? For volume 32, I'm going to say that we might see Eren again. Ultimately, that's my thoughts on the Attack on Titan manga as of right now, up to chapter 129. If I have to give these chapters a rating, break the scale. It has been a break the scale thus far for Attack on Titan. As it should be, because, again, this final arc, the War for Paradise, has been quite something. It really has. And it gets me really excited to know what's going to be coming up next, because according to Isayama, we only have 5% of the story left. How much that entails, either 134 or 138. I would like it to be 138, but if it ends in 134, I guess it is what it is. But for now, we just gotta wait and see. We just gotta wait and see what happens. Like I said before, the chapters as a whole is a break the scale rating. Let me know what your guys' thoughts have been on the Attack on Titan manga as of right now. What's been your favorite moments? What's been something that you're really looking forward to after 129? And how much longer do you guys think we have left for Attack on Titan? 134 or 138? Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comments down below. And aside from that, that's pretty much it. I'm LuckyRave7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Attack on Titan. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.